Hello. Today in this presentation, I plan to look critically at this up-and-coming technology of autonomous vehicles and dive deep into understanding the potential of this growing market and its hopes for the future. First, we'll be looking at the different paths that autonomous vehicles can go down. Then we'll compare the technology of driverless cars to past business trends to help us get a better understanding of where it could be in the years to come. When talking about autonomous vehicles, it is only fitting that we talk about the firms at the forefront of this technology. We'll go over some costs and benefits for these firms pursuing the product. Finally, we'll wrap up with some general things for us to consider for the future. In the auto industry today, there are two terms used to differentiate the potential future of autonomous vehicles. There's the evolutionary path versus the revolutionary path. The evolutionary path is where our present-day cars gain self-driving features piece by piece. The revolutionary path is where totally self-driving cars start as they are and become more commonplace as they drive in more locations and gain more data. Right now, Tesla has a semi-autonomous vehicle that is safe to use on highways or in heavy traffic. Tesla is an example of the evolutionary path, while Google's Waymo is testing their vehicles in order to perfect them, and then choosing specific locations to drive their cars, and then they will grow from there, which is more revolutionary. Aside from which path leads to the most success, by 2045 our world could be transformed into an entirely different place, where a driver's license could become obsolete, car accidents are almost unheard of with the communication between vehicles, and your car basically is transformed into a personal chauffeur, dropping you off and picking you up at various destinations. To get a better perspective on how this tech trend will evolve, we can compare and contrast it to other trends we have seen before. For example, the autonomous vehicle trend can be compared to that of the mobile device trend. Companies like Intel failed to see this emerging consumer product that would change the way people communicate forever. In the future, there could be companies that saw no potential in the autonomous vehicle market and could miss the opportunity to take a piece of a market that changes the way people travel forever. Also, as autonomous vehicles become more commonplace, sales for the new product will decline. Like the mobile phone market, driverless car companies will have to find new ways to generate revenue through things like access to different types of content while in the car. Another tech trend we can compare and contrast autonomous vehicles to is virtual and augmented reality. The AR and VR market, while there was a lot of hype around the new consumer product in the tech world, when it was launched, this hype was not reciprocated by consumers, and thus the AR and VR markets have somewhat stagnated. Similarly, while there is a lot of hype for autonomous vehicles in the tech world, presently this excitement could be another hoax and consumers could not be as willing to hop in a driverless car. But luckily, the Boston Consulting Group has done a study on consumer demand for the product of autonomous cars and found that 55% of US drivers are likely to consider buying a partially autonomous vehicle and 44% are willing to buy a fully autonomous vehicle. These percentages also will only increase hopefully as more people see the safety of autonomous vehicles and their convenience. When trying to figure out which firms will come out on top, it can be hard to judge who the true winners are because there is an evident split between two symbiotic parts to autonomous driving that are proving right now to be a divider. It is technology versus manufacturing. An example of this would be Google's Waymo versus Ford. Waymo has the advantage of bringing the best engineers and talent to the company to innovate the technology behind a driverless car. Meanwhile, Ford has the advantage of being able to mass produce a car product. The real winner will be the firm that is able to combine hardware with software to create and sell a driverless car. In a study done by Navigant Research, they mapped out who they believed were going to be the winners in this market, and they put Ford and GM at the top. This may be surprising since companies like Tesla, Google, and Uber are constantly in the headlines for their autonomous driving ventures. But Sam Abulsmid, who wrote the report for the Navigant, said the technology is great, but unless you can build tens of thousands of cars and get people in those cars, it's not really all that useful. Only the future can tell if his predictions will be true. Nonetheless, these leaders in the driverless car market know the obstacles they have to overcome, which is why Ford has teamed up with 4 Silicon Valley startups specializing in autonomous vehicle technology, and is why Uber has partnered with the car producer Mercedes-Benz. I believe that the winners will be the ones who can formulate the best partnerships and be able to collaborate. When looking at the costs and benefits of pursuing this market, there are a few things that stick out. Looking at the cost, one is that it is an extremely expensive venture. This new technology is only being spearheaded by firms who already have large amounts of capital, like Google and Ford, and who are able to acquire and scale more easily than a smaller company trying to break into this market. Also, venturing into this market could cause an established firm to lose sight of their product. making them less competitive since they are focusing on something outside of their vertical. On the other hand, one huge benefit of pursuing this market is that it can potentially be a blue ocean for your company if you are the first to enter. No company has yet to put out a fully autonomous vehicle on the road, but the first to do so successfully could win big if their tech proves to be safe. And there will most likely be only a few competitors in the future of this market, as is seen in the car industry now. As I said before, 44% of drivers would willingly get behind the wheel of an autonomous car, which is a huge market by itself that is untapped. As we wrap up, some things to consider as you continue thinking about the future of autonomous driving are integrated technology and mass production. For Waymo, drivers could be able to connect their phone content with their car, creating smart devices, pulling in more customers. Imagine being able to pull up Gmail or YouTube on your windshield with the click of a button or with a command as your Waymo car drives you to your destination. This could prove to be difficult for Ford or GM to copy who do not already have these tech integrations. But on the flip side, will Google or Uber be able to mass produce cars assembly line style, or will their focus on the technology leave them in the dust as Ford and GM team up with tech companies to get a lot of cars on the road? There are many moving parts to this equation, but nonetheless, the future is bright for this market, and it is also especially bright for the customer. In a social sense, autonomous vehicles have the potential to make the world an extremely safe place. In the US alone, 37,000 people die every year in car accidents, and on top of that, an additional 2.35 million people are injured or disabled in car crashes. If these big companies get the tech right, which I believe they will, our world could become a much safer place to live. Thanks for watching.